9/11 hit. And so everyone around me at the time, I was working for Avaya, everyone in my department was either being terminated or they're quitting and leaving. And I saw the writing on the wall. I'm like, well, I'm the new guy at the time, so I'm going to get terminated. So I took advantage of the tuition reimbursement program and said, well, let me suck everything I can out of my employer until I get terminated. And so I got the tuition reimbursement program, went and pursued and got my master's in business. And that's where I learned about sales and marketing and finance and international business and how borders are shrinking with technology and, transportation like airplanes and be able to move around very easily. And so that really kind of set that speed for eventually leading to the transportation business I'm in now. But I did that. And once I finished that program, luckily I still stayed employed, even though I was one of two people that didn't get fired, after 9/11 hit. I was able to stay long enough to finish my degree in business. And so at that point, I started traveling a lot as business came back. Like I was 75% of the year I was on the road. And so I was a consumer. I was in the back seat. And, I was being driven by taxis, which they were very unreliable. This was before Uber. So unreliable. Yeah, whether they would show up, what time they would show up. You didn't have the ability to really call them on cell phones like you do now. And so it was a mess. And I was always trying to get to the airport. Well, eventually I got a cab driver who said, oh, you can schedule with me directly. Here's my business card. I was like, oh, I can do that. I don't have to go through the main number. He's like, yeah, you can just call me directly. He's like, because what we do is we just have to pay a weekly fee, but we're essentially our own business.
Yeah. 1099, right?
Yeah. So I was like, all right, cool. So I started calling him directly, and he was taking me to the airport every week. And then for overflow, that's where farming out came in. He's like, hey, I'm busy. I got multiple clients. He's like, I'm going to send a friend of mine who I know who used to be a cab driver, but he had started his own town car business. I'm going to send him and you just pay him directly. And so I learned that concept of farming out. And then I learned later, like he would just cut him 20% for the business and give him 20% for that referral.
Sure.
Well, the cab driver eventually lost. He had too many tickets. Eventually lost his license. So now I was left with just the town car driver. So I was calling him every week, and then he was telling me just through conversations like, "Hey, I'm my business is growing. I'm looking for a part-time driver to help me out." I'm like, "Well, this was around Christmas time or in December, between Thanksgiving and Christmas, and our business kind of shut down because for the corporate world, a lot of people." Their budgets were spent. They were all taking vacation before they could lose it. So we kind of shut down, so to speak.
Yep.
And so I was like, hey, I've been in customer service all my life, ever since I was bussing tables at 12 years old. And so I know how to handle people. I know how to drive safely. I can wear a suit and dress sharply. I'm like, and I can earn some extra scratch for the holidays for Christmas. So I was like, let me drive for you part-time. And so he did that. And that was kind of my intro to it. And it was never intended to be long-term. Never thought about starting my own transportation company. It was more of, hey, I just want to earn some extra scratch for the holidays and, maybe buy my kids a little bit nicer toy or something. And that was really the rationale behind it. So then one thing led to another where he was like, hey, I got approached about, someone was looking at buying my business. At the time, it was just one car. And I was like, hey, you know what? Let me put my MBA skills to the test. I'm like, if you're looking to sell, would you be open to, let me take a run at it? He's like, sure, if you want. So he gave me all the data and I started looking at it, and he wanted way too much. So I didn't know anything about buying a business, running a business, evaluating a business. But from the data I had, I knew he was wanting way too much. I mean, he did like $50,000 a year, $55,000 a year total in business, gross revenue, not profit.
Oh, gross. Oh, okay, yeah. Sorry, man.
Yeah, and he wanted like $75,000 for his business. I'm like, hey, man, I'm new at all this, but I know it's way too much. I said, if you can get that, more power to you, but I'm not the guy. And in the end, he didn't end up selling like he thought he would. But somehow that transaction led to a rumor in my local market in Denver that I was looking to buy a limo business, which I wasn't. It just happened to be in front of me, and it was more practice.
Sure,
so then,
for sure.
Yeah. So then I got another person in the industry because again, there's all kinds of farm outs going on between all these individual IOs, right?
Totally.
So someone else in there said, "Hey, I heard you were looking to buy business." Again, I already addressed that. I wasn't, but it's like, there's an older couple who are retired. Business is starting to decline. They want to know if you're interested in buying them. And again, they just have one car. So I went and spoke to them, put my MBA skills to the test, and I thought I was pretty hot stuff, to be honest with you, Mark, because like, okay, I've done this before, got a little experience, and they wanted 120,000 a year. And I said, you know what? You're asking too much. I laid out all the reasons why they're asking too much. And I said, I'll pay you 90. And they took it. And I thought I was pretty hot stuff.
Wait, they wanted how you said 120,000, did you say a year? What?
I'm sorry, 120,000 total.
Oh, okay. All right. Got
Thanks
it.
for the clarification. So they wanted 120,000 total, and I said, no, you want too much. I'll pay you 90. So I thought I was hot stuff. So I'm like, hey, I'm gonna, discount 25%, and I felt it was justified.
Do you remember the numbers, like the any of the stuff, like the EBITDA or anything like that?
No, so I didn't know enough to really calculate EBITDA on an IO. So I just looked at gross revenue, because someone had told me sometimes when you buy small businesses, oftentimes it's 1 year gross revenue. And
yeah. That makes sense. I mean, it's hard to value a business of that size, right?
Yeah. So the only reason I was interested is because I was like, okay, one, I'm only going to give you 75% of what you're asking. Secondly, they had a bunch of key accounts I felt like I can grow. They worked with ING at the time, which was Voya. They had multiple law firms in Denver.
That's huge.
They had a bunch of weekly travelers, like a venture capitalist. They got some IT people that were high up. They weren't low level. And so they've been doing it for many years. So I was like, okay, well, let me figure, let's say 50% of them stick around. It makes sense, right? And thankfully, they all stuck around until they all retired. But knowing what I know now, I still way overpaid for the business, by a factor of 2. But it led me to where I was here, because I was able to not only keep the clients we had, I was able to grow those accounts. And then because I was an IT consultant, I was a customer myself, as well as I knew a bunch of people that traveled. So in the end, it all worked out. But that's kind of what led me to where I was. It was just more by chance versus something I was seeking.
Yeah. Interesting. Okay. Yeah. They say these days there's so many opportunities with baby boomers retiring, and a lot of people probably don't realize that there are lots of smaller operations that they might not have kids to hand the business down to, or the kids don't want the business, right? And you don't always need the capital, right? I mean, I'm sure, I don't know how you finance that deal or what you did, but you can do small amount up front, and sometimes you can just do collector or financing by the person selling it to you, which essentially means you're paying them off, right, each year.
Yeah.
So that became Hermes. Was that business called Hermes, or that had another name and you rebranded, or when did Hermes quote unquote start?
So that company was Hermes Private Car. And so I replaced the private car worldwide, because at the time, as first couple of years I was into it, everybody was worldwide, right? And that was my focus day one. I'm like, hey, I'm not interested in just Denver. Like, there's global corporations everywhere. People travel all over the globe. I want to be that one-stop shop to them, right? So I rebranded to Hermes Worldwide when we changed our business structure after, 18 to 24 months or something. But in the end, I learned the worldwide part really didn't matter. Maybe it did early on when maybe still ran ads in newspapers, still ran ads in phone books, which really don't exist anymore. Maybe then it kind of made sense, but now the name isn't as important as the brand recognition and what does that mean?
Exactly. Because let's be honest, there's a lot of quote unquote worldwides, right? Which probably not very many are, but. So in building that brand, so that was when you bought it. What year? That was around what?
October 2007. October 2007.
Wow, and it's changed a lot since then. So I'm assuming, initially started out where they just had a sedan or SUV, and then you slowly started building up SUV fleet. Like, when was it that where you made your foray into start getting larger vehicles? And what were those vehicles? Did you ever go into stretch limos or party buses or anything like that, or did you always generally stick with corporate?